Well, good afternoon and welcome to the FPU Career Center presentation on LinkedIn, how to get started and leverage LinkedIn for your career advancement. My name is Rose Wynn. I'm the director of our Career Development and Experiential Learning Center. And I'm really excited to chat with you today about LinkedIn because it really is a vital tool, not only for networking, but also for career development. So we'll have a lot of exciting things to jump into today. We are recording this webinar, so we're happy to share a link to that recording for anyone that may want to go back and view it. And we'll also hold some question and answer time at the end of the information that we'll share. So if you have questions that pop up during our presentation, feel free to type them out in the chat for this session or hold on to them and you can share them during the Q&A at the end. So to get started, let's chat about what is LinkedIn. Like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and a bunch of other platforms, LinkedIn is a social network. And like other social networks, LinkedIn provides you with the opportunity to engage with others at that intersection of technology and human interaction. But LinkedIn is different from other social media in that it is explicitly focused on professional engagement. It's designed to help folks make business connections, career connections, and share their experience and resumes and find jobs. In our modern world, much of our day-to-day activities for both work and personal contexts are conducted within online platforms. And that's even more so true in 2020, right? LinkedIn provides the opportunity for you to identify professional contacts that are relevant for your area of career focus. To develop connections and communication with those contacts and thus open doors for your career advancement. Despite the professional focus, LinkedIn is pretty similar in basic function to other social networking sites like Facebook. It's based on principles like connecting to friends, or within the case of LinkedIn, it's connecting to connections, professional contacts. But you also can share updates, you can share and like content, and you can instant message other users within the platform. So this similarity to casual social media does make LinkedIn very user-friendly and easy to get used to. It is important to know that the similarity does stop there though. Like I mentioned before, the content you share on LinkedIn and the goals that you seek to achieve through your use of LinkedIn should be solely professional in focus if you're really to get benefits from using this platform. So in this session, we'll be taking a closer look at strategies that you can use to leverage LinkedIn for your career advancement. And before we hop over there, let's talk about, I'm going to pause for just a moment. All right, so let's chat about why we would want to use LinkedIn. Employers use social media to find qualified applicants as it's often faster and cheaper as a method to identify good job candidates than just posting a job online. LinkedIn is the #1 social network for employers. And while recruiters do sometimes use Facebook, Twitter, and other social media to screen candidates, LinkedIn is by far the most prominent platform that recruiters and hiring managers turn to identify and evaluate candidates for internships and jobs. So you want to have a presence on LinkedIn so that you have the opportunity to be discovered by employers. Additionally, when you apply for internships or jobs, it's common for recruiters to run an internet search on your name if you're among the individuals that they're considering to interview. Online search results provide a very fast way to cut down the number of people to interview, as anyone that has negative content posted online can quickly be eliminated from the interview pool. LinkedIn automatically filters through search algorithms to rise to the top of search results. So when you create a profile on LinkedIn, you're guaranteeing that a polished professional item will be in the top search results that will be seen by any recruiter who Googles your name. So your LinkedIn profile quickly serves to reinforce your professional strengths and capabilities in the eyes of an employer. Since your LinkedIn profile functions similar to your resume, employers will evaluate the consistency of information in your resume as compared to your profile. But your LinkedIn profile provides many other ways to showcase your skills and strengths. You can quickly make an excellent impression with employers by highlighting your polished written communication, your industry expertise, and accolades that you've collected from supervisors. You can also reveal a little bit about your personality and character, which gives employers a peek into how you might fit into their organizational culture. So just as employers use LinkedIn to evaluate you as a candidate, you can use LinkedIn to evaluate employers. Job searching is always a two-way street. It's a bit like matchmaking, right? You're invested in finding the best fit for you, and you want to secure a great job that aligns with your skills and career goals, but you also want to have good alignment with the values and the culture of the company that you'll work with. You'll invest a huge amount of time into your work. So it's important that the glove fits well on both hands. And LinkedIn provides you a wealth of opportunity to screen the companies that you're considering applying to. You can even identify contacts who work at the company now, or who have worked there in the past, and reach out to them to gain insight on what it's really like to be a part of that organization. So let's take a look at how to create a LinkedIn profile. It's actually pretty easy. It takes just a few minutes to get started and have your basic profile ready to go. There's a variety of options to share additional detail about your core strengths and capabilities. And so you can invest more time to create a really thorough, highly polished, and captivating profile. But to get started, these are all the basic steps, and we'll chat through them today. The great thing about LinkedIn is that your profile really becomes a living representation of you as a professional. So you can add and update information over time so that your online profile really functions as an effective marketing tool at every phase of your career advancement. So let's dive into the details about how to create your profile. And actually, before we dive in, I'd like to take a quick poll of the audience. So by a show of hands, using the emojis, you can raise your hand or give a thumbs up. How many of you don't have a LinkedIn profile at all and plan to create one for the first time? Go ahead and give a thumbs up or a show of hands if that will be you. Okay, and likewise, if you can give a thumbs up or show of hands, if you have a profile, but you're wanting to polish it and leverage it in new ways at this time. Okay, all right. Well, thanks to everybody for responding. We have a good mix in the crowd here. So as we're talking through the basic steps about how to build your profile, you might see tips and tricks to refine and update yours if you have one already. And if this is new to you, you'll have all the information you need to set a strong foundation for your profile. So to join, you can go through the steps that are shown here. The URL is noted, and you just fill out the basic information and click join now. And now you're a part of LinkedIn. As your next step, you'll want to upload a professional picture. It is really important to use a professional photo as your profile picture in LinkedIn, as your photo is always the very first item that anybody will see when they view your profile, as well as when they view your little tidbit as an item in search results for different profiles. And as we know, there's never a second chance to make a great first impression. So your picture really will serve to get you a lot of traction on LinkedIn if it's professional and polished and immediately gives the right image that you want to convey about who you are as a professional. So make sure you make a great first impression. And in addition to having a picture, you don't want to default to having just the blank little face icon, because LinkedIn usage data consistently shows that profiles that include a photo receive massively more clicks, connections, and general engagement than other profiles that do not have a photo, especially in today's world where we're all online all the time. And all of our work and education is done, it's really even more important to put a face with a name. So your profile photo may be actually the most important item in your profile as a whole. So take care to select a photo that meets all the criteria that's noted here on the screen. And if you do not have a professional picture, feel free to reach out to us in the FPU Career Center. We actually schedule LinkedIn photo shoots at many of our in-person events. And while our in-person events are on hold right now during this season of 2020, we can actually set up time to take a professional photo of you on campus in a safe way. So if you're not having or have lack of a professional photo right now, no worries, we can be happy to help you out with that. Following your photo, your headline is the second most important item in your profile, as it's also a very highly visible component. You want to use your headline as a marketing tool. Use it to call out your key skill set that you want employers to know about you. Make your headline forward thinking, calling out skills that you're leveraging to make the next step up in your career. Your headline will be shown along with your photo every time your profile is shown in someone else's search results. It's also among the first few items that anyone reads when they review your profile in full. So just like the headline on your resume, it's really critical to use the headline of your LinkedIn profile to grab the reader's attention and entice them to want to look through your full profile in detail. Just citing your job title is really not forward thinking enough. This is the default that will happen. And if you're just kind of filling out all the fields in your profile for the first time, you'll notice that whatever's the job that you list as current or most recent, the title for that job will automatically populate the headline field in your profile. So you want to take some time to go back, customize that headline to reflect, again, a forward-thinking lens of your key skills that you want employers to know as they're looking at you as a candidate for your next step in your career. In this example that we're looking at here, the individual's headline uses industry language, in this case for the human resources industry, by speaking directly to recruiters and employers who are searching for candidates to support their talent acquisition. So think about those keywords that may be most relevant for your industry. And if you like some help in brainstorming keywords, again, get in touch with our Career Center. Our team of career counselors will be happy to help you as you're kind of thinking through what could be the most powerful content to include in your LinkedIn headline. So following your profile photo and headline, your summary is the next item that viewers will see. When someone opens up your profile, they actually only see the first 2 lines of your summary. So the summary is really critical real estate in your LinkedIn profile, because if you fail to catch the reader's attention in those first 2 lines, they may not click the see more option to read through the summary in full. So you want to have a well-crafted summary, but really pack your punch in the first 2 lines to inspire your viewer to want to read more. A good strategy is to include brief paragraphs that quickly convey your core skills, your strengths, and your accomplishments. So you're calling out, again, what you want that employer or recruiter to know right away about what is most important in your capabilities. You can write it in a way that shows a little bit of your personality and passion for your area of expertise. To optimize keywords that will trigger your profile to be included in relevant search results, you can use a bulleted list of your core skills and capabilities at the end of your summary. This allows you to provide a broader scope on the range of your skill set within a really tiny space. And of course, that can serve, again, to entice the reader to learn more about your experience, education, and other qualifications by reading through the rest of your profile in detail. Your LinkedIn profile provides a way to complement and add to your resume. So if you've applied to a company and the recruiter Googles your name and subsequently views your LinkedIn profile, the experience section of your profile provides additional opportunity to expand on the content in your resume. You can include a description of your core responsibilities and key achievements for each job, which will likely mirror what you have shown in your resume. But you can go beyond that to include samples of your work or a short video in which you share about a major project or talk about a critical problem that you solved. Your LinkedIn profile thus allows you to showcase your value to an employer in a really dynamic way. If an employer finds your profile in their search results as they're browsing for candidates for a job opening, you can make a really amazing impression by showcasing not only your work history, but also the positive impact that you made through your work, and thus again entice that employer to want to know more about you. So you can follow the guidelines that are shown here as the baseline for content that you'll include for each item in your experience section. You want to ensure that there is that alignment between your profile and your resume, such that the same jobs are listed in both. You don't want to raise unnecessary red flags about your work history by having different jobs listed in your profile versus your resume. If you've held jobs that have nothing to do with your career goals, you can include them just to show the chronology of your employment, but de-emphasize them by not including a great amount of detail. That way, all the time spent reading your profile is focused on the detail that's specific to experiences that relate to your career goals. Include more detail about jobs that are relevant to your career in that way. If you worked with an employer who is obscure, you can include a company description to provide a bit of context to the industry or the market that you worked in. For example, everyone knows that Target is a national chain of retail superstores. So if you worked at Target, you probably would need to include a company description. But if you worked for an organization called Level Up that tutors students to improve in academic performance, you might want to include a company description because Level Up could indicate leveling up in a variety of ways. If you have any questions or concerns about any element of creating the experience section in your LinkedIn profile, again, don't hesitate to contact our career team. We'd love to answer your questions and support you as you're building out this section as well. It's always good to have a mix of endorsements and recommendations to show and not just tell employers what you can do. So when you endorse your managers and former supervisors and make recommendations for them, you can then ask them to do the same for you. And this is I'm going to pause our recording here again as it looks like the notes for my presentation have mixed up. All right, you'll also want to feature your key skills and showcase at least 5 transferable skills, though you can select many more than 5. And order them by importance, as just like with your summary, there'll be a drop-down option where folks can view more if they choose to from the first few that are noted at the top. You can request endorsements from supervisors, colleagues, professors, classmates, really anybody you've worked with who can have an authentic way to comment on your work and the quality of it. So when you're selecting your skills, be careful to think about, again, that forward-thinking lens. What are the skill sets that are most desired? So take that next step in your career, push those skills up to the top, and then focus on getting endorsements for those items. We'll dive a little bit more into recommendations and endorsements later on in this presentation, but this section is really important as a secondary area of backup to showcase your skill set in addition to your experience. After all that, you'll want to enter your education. Of course, if you are a student or alumni FPU, you've invested a lot in your education, and so you want to have it listed there. If you've attended schools prior or after to Fresno Pacific, be sure to list all of your colleges and universities. And just like in your resume, it really isn't necessary to include your high school education once you've entered the collegiate world. Your education is also really great to include because, as we'll talk about later on, it provides a really easy forum to connect with other students and alumni and affiliates of that university network, and thus really leverage the networking component of your use of LinkedIn. Certifications and courses are another area where you can show your training, specialized training and certification for a given field. So if you have those in addition to your education, absolutely do include them on your LinkedIn profile, as they will stand out and show that additional investment that you've made in mastering your area of expertise. Within your education itself, you may consider listing specific courses that you've taken. If you've chosen to do that, focus primarily on the courses that directly relate to the job that you're going for and the field of expertise that you're entering. rather than the full list. You don't need to include general education or courses that didn't relate to your major if you changed your major. If you're a current student or recent grad, this can also be a great way to increase the volume of industry relevant keywords that populate your profile and thus enhance the likelihood of showing up in employer search results when they're looking for folks as candidates within your career field. And finally, to round out the basics of your profile, you can consider some additional information. There are sections where you can enter honors and awards, add pictures, presentations, projects, show your research interests, volunteer work, etc. And so you'll notice that those sections give you other areas to showcase your skills and experience. So as you're working through your experience and education sections, think about these other items and where they may best fit in. And then when you're done with your profile and you're proofing it, you can go back and just make sure that everything looks logical as to where items are placed and that it serves to build and showcase your strengths progressively through your profile. Of course, as you're proofing, you'll always want to check your spelling and grammar, just like in your resume. This is a professional representation of your skill set, and your written communication is part of what's evaluated when employers are viewing your LinkedIn profile. So be very careful about double checking all of your spelling and grammar as you're looking through all of the items within your profile. All right, so that rounds out the basics of how to build a profile. Again, there are many other features that you can potentially utilize to build upon your profile, but this will give you a good start. And, again, chat with a career counselor on our team anytime if you would like to think about some other ways to showcase your skills. But now let's dive into how to leverage LinkedIn for your career advancement. There are many ways to use LinkedIn to make a really huge positive impression on others and thus impact your career advancement. So some of the strategies that we'll review today include capitalizing on your membership in the FPU community, how to reconnect with folks from current or former jobs and schools that you've attended, how to monitor which employers and recruiters view your profile, and how to build out social proof of your skills and capabilities through recommendations and endorsements. So first, when we think about building your network, that's really the big push for LinkedIn as far as a reason to use it is that it opens up your network in tremendous ways. There are over 700 million users, almost 800 million worldwide in LinkedIn, and they're all across the world. So if you're looking for work here in the US or abroad, it's a great way to connect. More than 2 users actually join every second, which is a pretty amazing stat. And out of all those users, nearly 200 million of them are currently working and living in the United States. So we have a ready-made network right here. There literally is representation from every industry, every career field, every field of education that exists within LinkedIn. So you are guaranteed to find contacts that are relevant for your career goals when you're using this resource and connecting with others. So where to start? FPU is a great place. Leveraging your existing community really is the best place to begin building your network in LinkedIn because it'll give you a chance to get comfortable with the process by connecting with folks that you're already familiar with. Your current professors, your classmates, and FPU staff are all prime targets to connect with. Fresno Pacific boasts a really rich history of alumni hiring alumni and alumni going into business partnerships with alumni. So it's really great to solidify those connections in a tool like LinkedIn so you can carry them forward over time. And a strong core of FPU affiliated professionals are located right here in the Central Valley. So you'll be building out a locally relevant network as well by starting at FPU. It also is a great way to boost your name recognition and visibility when you go to apply for jobs or internships because you will find that there are many businesses that are owned or managed by other FPU alumni. When you're starting out and building your network, you can also leverage the alumni group within LinkedIn. This group currently holds 730 alumni, and it's growing rapidly. It's been used more so recently than in the past. So you're going to see some sharp upticks going forward from here as it continues to grow in use. You actually can join the FPU alumni group while you're still a student at FPU. You don't have to wait, and thus begin to gain connections and exposure in the alumni community even before you graduate. This group is also a really great career resource. Jobs and internship listings from employers who are targeting FPU post their listings to this group. And then knowing that history of alumni hiring alumni, you'll see listings from alumni noted there as well. You can also gain an inside track to identify other FPU alumni who are established subject matter experts in a variety of industries and career fields. So this group is an outstanding place to start building your network, gain valuable engagement with others in LinkedIn, and start branching out from there. Of course, the members of our team are a great resource for you as well. So we invite everybody in this webinar and who's watching it as a recording later. Feel free to send us a connection request anytime. Myself, Rose Wynn, you'll see here, along with the career counselors on our team, Corey Hawes and Estella Saldana. We're all active users in this platform and would love to join with you as you're building out your profile and your network in this resource. So we'll look forward to your invitations. Following FPU, you'll be able to branch out from there and also focus on existing connections as your early start. Think through your history of professionally relevant contacts. Look those individuals up on LinkedIn. If they have a LinkedIn presence, then go ahead and send a request to connect. You'll notice that as your first degree connections increase in volume, your range of second and third degree connections will also increase by pretty large proportions. This will make it easier for you to request and share introductions with new contacts beyond your base network over time. We'll talk about best practices for how you reach out to invite others to connect with you just a little bit later in this session. So if you're starting to wonder, oh my goodness, how am I going to actually contact these people? We'll give you some best practices there, as there are some ways to leverage and enhance your relationships, even right from the start when you're sending the first request to connect. But before we dive into that, let's also chat about another way to leverage LinkedIn, which is monitoring who views your profile. Again, employers and recruiters are using this tool all the time to search for candidates for internships and jobs. So you want to know who's looking at you. And a really useful feature is this monitoring piece. It's important to check this regularly because if you're not, you might be actually missing out on a potential gold mine of employers who have shown interest in you. So if somebody landed on your profile but hasn't taken the initiative to send you a connection request, you can then follow up on that to reach out to them if you feel that they might be a good connection for you. You'll want to make sure you send a personalized connection request. And again, we'll talk about that in a moment. When you do this, there's no need to note, I saw you viewed my profile in your message. You can just craft a message using the guidelines that we'll review in regard to putting together an invitation. But as far as looking at who's viewed your profile, you can also gain some insights from this section. You can see what companies your viewers worked at, what job titles they hold. You can also see trends for who's viewing your posts or your profile by volume over time. And then you can see stats in regard to what industries they represent and different things like that. So you will notice that there is an option to view all profile views if you pay for a LinkedIn profile. And I just want to pause here to note that typically there isn't much reason for students or many professionals, I would assert, to actually use a paid profile. Everything that we're talking about is accessible within the free version. And when you're monitoring who views your profile regularly, you always see the top 5 results. So if you're checking in every few days or once a week, you'll probably be able to stay on top of it, that you're not missing anyone who's viewed your profile. So I just want to note that there, since there is an option to click to pay for an upgrade when you go into the who viewed my profile section. If you want to talk about paid subscriptions more, again, feel free to reach out to our career team, but I think for students and young professionals, the free version probably hits all the boxes that you would want in how you're utilizing this platform. Hi, Stella, you had something you want to add on there?
Yeah, really quick question. Are you on the slide leverage LinkedIn for your career advancement? Or are we on an, okay, here we go. We had to pause for a little bit. We apologize.
All right. Well, we missed a few slides there. So let me just go back and quickly mention them for sake of making sure that we have all the visuals. And thank you, Estella, for catching me there. We have a little bit of mix match with how the slides are progressing in your view and in mine. So thanks for catching that. We talked about how many users are in LinkedIn, which there is a vast amount globally as well as in the US, as well as a significant amount from the FPU community, which many are represented right here within the Central Valley. So there's that listing of detail in regard to that gold mine of opportunities for contacts through FPU. The alumni group within LinkedIn for Fresno Pacific University is a great resource. This is what you'll see when you'll search for it, and you can join still as a student and become part of that 700 plus membership that's quickly growing, and connect with other FPU students and alum. Additionally, we invite you to connect with all of us here on the career team. As I had mentioned when you could not see us, my name is Rose. We also have Corey Hawes and Estella Saldana, our career counselors, and we're all active users and in LinkedIn on a regular basis. So we look forward to your invitations to connect and joining with you as you are building out your profile, as well as your network in this platform. Branching out from FPU, you can check out current and former supervisors, colleagues, teachers, and classmates, coaches, mentors, really any professionally relevant contact that might be a great add to your network. So just search those names in LinkedIn. If they have a presence there, go ahead and send them a connect request. Then you can monitor who's viewing your profile. And as we were just chatting about that, here's a snapshot about what it looks like. Using the free version of LinkedIn, you will see the last 5 views. And as I mentioned, you have the option to upgrade to your paid version to see the whole historical list of who's viewed your profile. But if you're monitoring this fairly regularly, you likely won't need that. So your discretion, how you'd like to do it. But this does provide some really great information on seeing who's been attracted to your profile, who's taken time to look at it, what industries they represent, what companies they work at, and what kind of titles are looking at you as well. All right, so now we're getting on to recommendations and endorsements. So to head back into some syncopated view and listening, when you're doing recommendations and endorsements, this is a great way to gather that social proof to show your expertise to those who view your profile before you may even have a chance to talk to them or submit a resume or have an interview. By gathering recommendations and endorsements, you're demonstrating that others trust you and trust your subject matter expertise. You'll also be able to show that others enjoy working with you, that you're a nice person, that you've done quality work in your accomplishments at school, at work, in volunteer causes, whatever it may be. So it is vital to gather that social proof on your LinkedIn profile through these recommendations and endorsements, as it will dramatically increase your credibility and authority in your engagement with others. With recommendations and endorsements, reciprocity really is the best rule of thumb. So always be willing to give recommendations and endorsements to those in your network who you authentically believe deserve them. And then likewise, when you reach out, folks are more likely to say yes and give you those recommendations and endorsements. And when making a request for a recommendation, always personalize your request just as you would personalize your outreach for new connections. For example, your request could include a brief mention of a project that you worked on together or a class that you completed together. You could include a short list of things that that person might mention in the recommendation, such as if you worked on a project together in a class, you could ask that they mention your project management skills or your research capabilities or your strengths in problem solving or any skill that's specific to your career field that they would be able to comment on authentically. There are default messages for many LinkedIn functions, and that includes the recommendation feature. But I strongly urge you not to just use the default blurb that comes up in LinkedIn when you're submitting a request for a recommendation. Always customize those messages. And in that way, you'll be able to both kind of shape the kinds of recommendations you're getting and make it easier for the folks that you request them from to be able to quickly put together a note and send it off to you as a beautiful recommendation. There are many, many other ways to leverage LinkedIn. So I'll share some resources at the end of this presentation that will give you some additional tips on the job search feature if you're looking for employment or internships, how to set up customized job alerts, how to follow companies, organizations that you might be targeting in your search in order to do good research for your resumes, your interviews, etc. And then how to leverage your participation in professional and industry groups. So since we won't have time to dive into all of these items together today, again, these are other pieces that would be great to follow up with a career counselor so that we can chat in more detail and support you through that process at any time. All right, so now that we've talked about how to build your profile and how to leverage some of the key features in LinkedIn, let's chat about a few best practices. In this time, we'll talk about how to send those requests to connect, how to maintain regularity in your engagement, as well as how to facilitate introductions and keep it professional. And disregard the 2 extra bullet points there that didn't get populated in the saved version of this presentation. All right, when sending requests to connect, you always want to include a note. We mentioned this earlier, and now we'll get to take a look at it in more detail. This is another piece within LinkedIn where there is a default option. When you click on the send button that's in blue, it sends a request and that person receives it and they don't have any detail with it. So you'll want to instead click on add a note so that you can customize that message. The first and foremost best practice you can do really is personalizing your engagement, and this includes your connection requests. So you'll want to just be diligent about that. If you receive an excessive number of reports, so when somebody receives a connection request from you, they have an opportunity to accept it or ignore it. And if they ignore it, they then have the option to indicate that they don't know you. So if you're sending out a connection request to somebody that you haven't had a chance to meet previously, and then they indicate that they don't know you, that actually goes into a mini report on your profile within the LinkedIn platform. And if you receive a large number of reports that others don't know you when they're sending or receiving a request to connect, it actually begins to limit your ability to reach out and engage with those connection requests. So basically LinkedIn will start to view you as a spammer. So you don't want to be a spammer. You want to make sure that you know how you know somebody or why you want to connect with them. And you do that by adding a note. So just kind of disregard that send button and block it out in your mind rather than going the easy route and just clicking send. All right, so even if you already know somebody well outside of LinkedIn, it still is a best practice to include a note in your request to connect. And you can practice this when you're sending invitations to myself and Corey and Estella, because we're going to accept anyway. So you can play around with how you phrase your notes. The screenshot that's shown here shows you what the personalization process looks like. So within your note, you'll want to include a greeting, an ending, and a brief note in between. You have 300 characters total to mention how you know that person and why you want to connect with them. Remember, everyone who's using LinkedIn is doing so deliberately for career advancement. So the more people tend to be selective about who they connect with, as they're not just reaching out to anybody and everybody across the world. You also want to be diligent in how you expand your networks, that you have relevant contacts within your connections. And this is a way to do it. So to see another completed example, since the screenshot shows just the middle snippet, your written message could look something like this: a greeting, a quick note on how you know this person or how you met or how you're affiliated, um, a note on why you want to connect with them. You could include a compliment because most people feel good when they get a compliment. It'll increase their likelihood to accept, as well as provide you the chance to state why, again, you're wanting to connect, and then a nice wrap up greeting at the end. We mentioned that this was the process for warm contacts or somebody that you already know. When you are reaching out to folks that you don't know, the process is actually quite similar. And so that's where starting with folks within the FPU community gives you a chance to practice with warm contacts before you move on to cold. But the process really isn't terribly different. You'll again want to mention why you'd like to connect and include a compliment where possible. So with these kinds of outreaches, you might note where you have professional overlap. And here's a couple of examples. If you're joining industry groups or professional groups in LinkedIn, you can reach out to fellow members of those groups to say, hey, I'm also a member of this group and I'm building my career in this field. I see that you're a subject matter expert and I'd love to connect with you here. Those are very common requests and very frequently accepted. So that would be a great way to branch out into your cold outreach in LinkedIn. You might also reach out to folks if you're taking classes or attending webinars. Webinars are really popular in our online environment today. So if you attend an industry webinar, you can actually reach out to the folks that hosted it or helped to manage it, and note that you loved the information they had to share, maybe note how it is relevant to you personally, and then use that as your means to connect. So these are some common strategies. There's probably a lot of ways you could phrase this in your own language, but this can give you some kind of templated form to begin crafting some outreach messages yourself. So another huge best practice is to be regularly active. It's extremely easy for anyone viewing your profile to actually see just how active or inactive you are on LinkedIn. Your activity engagement will keep you top of mind with your connections. So if you're wanting to be visible to others in your career field, engagement is a really easy way to do so. Your connections are also critical ingredients to increasing your visibility to others beyond your immediate network and building relationships further. And you can't really build relationships if you aren't present and engaging. So you'll want to invest in that regularly. And with LinkedIn, like anything else, you really get back what you invest. So we recommend budgeting time to post and engage with other posts on a regular basis. A good healthy minimum would be 10 minutes a day, a few days a week. It doesn't take a ton of time just to kind of have a regular presence in LinkedIn. And if you give yourself 10 minutes a day, say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or something like that, then you can make sure that you're posting something, you're commenting on others, you're responding to folks who commented on yours, and having that ongoing back and forth in a healthy and effective way. A great way to stay active and visible is to regularly post updates, and some examples are shown here on the screen on the types of things that you might post. You can also comment on posts from subject matter experts that you admire or are following, and thus begin to elevate your perception as a subject matter expert in your field as well. Another best practice is to introduce people. This is a LinkedIn best practice that can really create significant social capital for you. So do introduce your connections to each other when it makes sense. And I provide an example here. This is a common kind of introduction that we do through the Career Center, but the language that's shown will help you maybe think through some ways that you could facilitate introductions for contacts that you know. So thinking of yourself as a business matchmaker will invoke reciprocity. Remember, reciprocity is a big key to really leveraging impact in LinkedIn. Often people will return the favor by introducing you to their connections and thus help you really expand your network in a quickly relevant way. They'll also be more likely to think of you. If they know you're job searching or looking for an internship and they see something that might be of interest to you, they're more likely to say, hey, this person has been really generous in introducing me to folks. I'd like to introduce them because I see this item that could be really quite relevant for their career advancement as well. And for the sake of time, again, we won't be able to go through all best practices, but there are some additional ones noted here that I'd recommend you give some thought to. With the top one being just be really open to engagement. Because LinkedIn is a professional network and folks are using it explicitly for career advancement, you'll notice that folks tend to be pretty open. And while we talked through some detail about sending connection requests and making sure that you know how people know you so that they don't hit ignore or indicate they don't know you, don't let that scare you off. People are really open, and if you're crafting a note like that, it's likely that you'll have a lot of open doors to your connection requests, and so others are feeling the same kind of openness. So even if you tend to be shy in your personal life, try to think about LinkedIn as a way to kind of break out of that shell and have an opportunity to network with others in a professionally relevant way that can help you in your career. So keep it professional. That can also help you to feel more comfortable. Whether you're really outgoing or not, if you're new to your career or if you're established, by keeping it professional, you're really working within the guidelines of what this platform is meant to be. Again, in everything you do, whether it's in your profile or in the notes that you're crafting, be very cautious about your written communication and double check your spelling and grammar. LinkedIn being online does spell check some things, but not everything. So you won't want to rely on spell check in the same way that you potentially do with writing papers and other things that go into Office Suite type documents. And be open to learning as you go. LinkedIn is, as an online platform, constantly growing and evolving, and there's different features that come up over time. There's different practices that kind of emerge as trends in how people are using it over time. So be open to kind of keep an eye out for those things and learn and practice as you go. Your efficacy, your efficiency, and how comfortable you feel using LinkedIn will absolutely grow over time the more practice that you get. So just keep diving in, and you'll have some really great results. I guarantee you over time. LinkedIn is a tremendously valuable career tool. For more helpful resources, we have a variety of items on our career resources website, and that's listed here. You can get a checklist that walks through the steps that we talked about today on how to build a profile. Also get some tips on increasing your visibility and get all those details on how to conduct an effective job search in LinkedIn. LinkedIn itself also offers a ton of resources explicitly for higher education students. And so I definitely recommend checking out that resource, as there's tutorials and videos, articles, just a wealth of information that can really help you ramp up your use and be effective right from the get-go as you are diving into LinkedIn. As mentioned earlier, we welcome you to get in touch with our career team anytime. We would love to help you as you're navigating LinkedIn for the first time, or if you're looking to refine and enhance your engagement there. All of our contact information is listed here, and we look forward to speaking with you. Another place to engage with us is through our Instagram account, and so we welcome you to check us out there. We occasionally post tips like LinkedIn tips on our Instagram, along with jobs and internships. We mention employers who are actively recruiting at the university all throughout the year, and have a lot of fun features that can help you to further engage in your career development through our career resources here at Fresno Pacific. So with that, we'll wrap up and open things up for Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and share, or type them in the chat box.
Hey, I had a quick question.
Great.
I'm wondering if it's better to do a job search on Indeed or LinkedIn or both.
Great question. I would recommend both, and I would tend to lean towards LinkedIn because, and I wish we'd had time to go into all this today about job searching specifically, but job searching is a powerful tool within LinkedIn, as you can see not only job listings themselves, but also who posted them, as the profile for the person who posted is automatically connected to that listing. You can see the employer's profile within LinkedIn, a listing of those, the company's employees and who's currently working there, who has formerly worked there, and what connections you may have to research further and connect with folks who know the organization. And so it can be a really powerful tool to use in your job search beyond just viewing a listing. You're viewing the listing as well as the people involved at that organization. So I would strongly urge using LinkedIn for your job search.
Thank you.
I don't see any questions in the chat room. Rose, if anyone has a question, you may write it in the chat room, or you may open your microphone. That way we can hear you. But I think that's all we have. No questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Estella. I'll go ahead and stop recording now.